So what if you could face down a huge presentation, a really tough conversation, or a crazy deadline, not with a racing heart, but with this sense of total, unshakable calm? You know, we've all seen those people, the athlete sinking the game-winning shot, or the ER doctor with hands like a rock in the middle of chaos. You might think, wow, they're just built differently, but they're not. They've just cracked a mental code that, it turns out, anyone can learn.
I mean, we've all been there, right? The pressure hits and bam, your brain goes into fight or flight mode. It just floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, and suddenly, your logical, rational thinking is completely hijacked. But the people who really thrive under pressure, they've learned how to work with this biological response instead of getting steamrolled by it. So how in the world do they do that? Let's break down that code. Okay, here's the absolute truth. Staying calm isn't some personality trait you're born with. It's a skill. It's really just a combination of a few psychological habits and some simple mindset shifts. And right now, we're going to break down the 3 hidden traits of the world's calmest people and show you exactly how you can start building them for yourself.
Now this first trait, it might sound a little backward at first. It's probably the most counterintuitive one of them all. I like to call it the sailor's acceptance, and it's all about how you relate to that internal storm of pressure.
This slide really says it all. Picture a massive storm out at sea. The rookie sailor, what do? They waste all their energy fighting the waves, screaming out a reality they can't change. They burn out and they lose control. But the veteran sailor, they do something totally different. They accept that the storm is there. Now this isn't surrender, it's clarity. By accepting the waves for what they are, they can pour all of their focus into the only things they can control, the rudder and the sails.
And that is exactly how calm people handle internal pressure. When that feeling of anxiety pops up, our first instinct is usually to fight it. To think, I shouldn't be feeling this way. But that just creates a second storm inside your head. Now you're stressed about being stressed. Calm people, though, they practice acceptance. They just notice the feeling. Okay, there's my racing heart, without judging it. And in that tiny little space between the feeling and your reaction to it, that's where you find your power. And this idea of acceptance, it flows right into our second trait, which is all about perspective. It's this incredible ability to reframe a scary situation from a threat into a challenge.
This subtle little mental flip is called cognitive reframing, and it is an absolute powerhouse. You're not changing the facts of the situation, just the story you're telling yourself about them. And that changes the questions you ask. Instead of, oh my God, what if I fail? Your brain starts asking, okay, how can I make this work? And that simple shift turns that paralyzing fear into focused, productive energy. A fantastic and honestly pretty dramatic historical example of this is Alfred Nobel, the guy who invented dynamite. So in 1888, a newspaper accidentally published his obituary when his brother died, and the headline was just brutal. The merchant of death is dead. I mean, can you imagine seeing your entire legacy summed up in those 5 horrifying words? Nobel could have just spiraled. He could have been crushed. But instead, he reframed it. He saw that awful headline not as a final judgment on his life, but as a critical piece of feedback, an opportunity to change the story. And that one moment of reframing led him to use his massive fortune to create the Nobel Prizes, completely redefining his legacy from a merchant of death to a champion of human achievement. Now that is the CEO's perspective.
All right, the third and final trait is pulled straight from ancient philosophy, and it's brutally simple. I call it the Stoic's focus.
So much of our anxiety comes from obsessing over things that are totally outside of our control. What other people are going to think, the economy, the weather. People who stay calm are absolutely ruthless about this distinction. They just don't waste mental energy on the uncontrollables. Think about it. A basketball player can't control the screaming crowd, but they can control their breathing, their focus, and their form. By shrinking their focus down to only those things, they anchor themselves in the moment. Okay, that sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it when your mind is just a whirlwind of what-ifs? How do you grab the steering wheel of your own mind in real time? Well, there's a simple, incredibly powerful tool that can help.
It's called box breathing, and it's used by everyone from Navy SEALs to top athletes to apply the Stoic's focus, but on a physiological level. It works by directly activating your body's brake pedal. That's the parasympathetic nervous system, which sends a signal to your brain that you're safe, allowing your logical mind to get back online.
Let's just walk through it real quick. It's incredibly simple. You just inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4.
Then you hold that breath for 4 seconds. Then you exhale slowly through your mouth for 4 seconds. And then you hold at the bottom for 4 more seconds. Repeating this cycle for just a minute or two forces your focus onto a simple, controllable rhythm, and it breaks that cycle of panic breathing that just fuels anxiety.
Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. It really all comes down to this 3-part skill set. It starts with the sailor's acceptance. You acknowledge your feelings so you have the energy to actually steer the ship. Then comes the CEO's perspective. You reframe threats into challenges, turning all that pressure into fuel. And finally, the Stoic's focus. You pour all your precious energy only into what you can actually control.
Ultimately, this isn't about getting rid of stress. I mean, a life without any stress would be pretty boring, right? This is about transforming your relationship with stress. It's about developing the skills to be the calm, clear-thinking center right in the middle of your own storm. So, which of these ideas are you going to try first?